Yo, what's up guys, it's NLW here, back again with another video. Today, I've done it. I went and bought all of the first series of the New Japan Super 7 series. So we've got Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, Tomohiro Ishii and Will Ospreay. I'm going to be unboxing them, giving you my thoughts on the figures. They were quite expensive and we've had them delayed for several years, but they do look pretty good, I must say, in person, but I'll get into that in a moment. Before I get into the video though, make sure you like the video as it helps get the channel out there. Also subscribe if you haven't already, as we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers soon, and your support in getting there would be appreciated. So, without further ado, let's get into the review. So they come in this kind of fancy box, this cardboard box, and you just open that up, and there inside you see the toy with the sleeve on it. I love the detail and the embossing of the logo, the New Japan logo, and on the back as well. I think the packaging is knocked out of the park as a collectible item so far. Definitely worth the money in terms of, yeah, and by the way, just a side note, they clearly say that this isn't a toy, this is a collectible, which is understandable, but as a collectible, I think it knocks it out of the park. Where the toy and the posing aspect comes into play, I'll let you know in a moment, but we've got the 4 figures here. He's looking pretty good in the box. So, right, we'll get them out of the box. I'm going to be very careful with the packaging and we'll see what they look like in hand. So I'll go through these one by one just so you can see what the accessories are in each of the figures. First, we'll start off with Hiroshi Tanahashi. So he comes with separate head, a couple of sets of different hands, and there's a lot of hands here and I'm very worried that I'm going to lose them. So for now, they're going to be kept in the packaging. We've also got this cool little guitar that he uses for his entrance. And now let's move over onto the figure and you can see what he's looking like now. I think this is probably my favourite out of the lot in terms of likeness, in terms of the accessories that come with it. So I'll go in depth a little bit more on Hiroshi Tanahashi. So we've got the head scan, if I can kind of zoom in there for you. So the head scan, again, pretty good. This is one that I think captures his likeness the most out of all of the figures. And the jacket, I do love the jacket. I think that the cloth and the, I don't know what kind of material you call this, kind of like sofa material or leather or whatever it is are good for the figures. So we'll sort of show you what the articulation's like. I'll get this jacket off one sec. So there's a closer look at the jacket. Again, I like the paint detail on it and I like the material, especially that bit there. That's pretty cool. And you've also got with it the IWGP Intercontinental title with the white strap. And I am digging this. I think it's a very nice detail on the toy. And we'll move on to Tanahashi now as we zoom in a little bit closer. So I like the head, as I said. This is the amount of motion you're going to get from the chest area, which I'm quite digging. Single jointed arms, although that's not the biggest issue as that's what Mattel Elites are at the current moment. And the range of motion coming up like here, that's completely fine. Like, it's not stiff at all. The only thing that worries me a little bit are these hands because they are a little bit loose, but at the same time you've got to swap them out with all the different accessories you've got. So I can understand why they might be a bit loose, so I'm just worried that I might break one inside of the figure if I were to pose it around. And we'll go on to the hip and the joints. It's kind of like the Jushin Thunder Liger Storm Collectible, that kind of stuff, except with a little bit more limited motion. This is the main issue for me, is having this single jointed knee. I think it wouldn't have been hard to have an extra joint here so you could have had a little bit more motion, but that's just a nitpick really. And again, like this, I'm worried about this because this is quite tight when you sit him out like that. So if you can see there, not a lot of motion there when he's kind of sat up. That worries me a little bit because of how stiff it is, but the material they use here is similar to the Storm Collectible, so if you've got the Hulk Hogan or the Jushin Liger, you'll know what I'm talking about. Kind of a rubber crotch, pelvis area, and the legs, which I do like. The only problem really is the knee, but even that is fine. Like, this boot cut moves pretty fine, and the boot, if you want to turn it, moves, I think it's at the knee. Yeah, so you can see there it moves at the knee, which could be a slight issue, but the figure stands up perfectly well. And as for the skin tone on it, I think they did a good job. I think the shading that they used, obviously in photos that you might have seen online, may not look as good, but certainly like in person, I don't notice that much of a difference with the skin tone. I think it's painted quite well. Maybe on the Okada, which we'll get to, it doesn't work as well, but on this Tanahashi, I think it's painted quite well, like the airbrush texture. So I have to say, I like the detail as well in the attire. And as someone who's tried to make a Tanahashi custom and failed, I do appreciate having one in figure form. So out of the 4 of them so far, I would say this is my favourite. But let's see how the others shape up. So here you see the accessories that come with Okada. You've got the Rainmaker bucks, the different sets of hands, and the other head scan, which I kind of prefer. I'll show you a little bit more in depth when we get into the actual figure itself. But here you can see Okada in all his glory, standing there in his jacket. And I have to say, right off the gate, I think that the jacket is the best part about this figure. I mean, it's so detailed, and you can kind of see on the back as well, like the attention to detail on it, and all the different kind of parts, like frilly bits coming off it, and things like that. And the chain as well, I'm really digging that. And I'm kind of focusing on it. There you go. The chain, I think, is a very nice addition. And of course the IWGP heavyweight title. But I'll take the jacket off and show you what the figure is looking like underneath. So there you see up close the IWGP heavyweight title, and I like the detail on it. I like the silver and the gold plated. I think they've done that very well, as well as this chain. I think it looks really good. And I'll show you what I mean about the head scan. So this is the first head scan. I actually prefer this one because the puckered lips on the other head scan I'm not really digging. So I think this really captures Okada a little bit more, but I'd say out of all the head scans it's probably the weakest in terms of the series. I'm not really digging the 5 o'clock shadow that he's got going on, and I think that it is a cool idea to have the spray paint on it to show the shadows, but when you're taking the photos, the light really does that for it, so it kind of ruins it in my opinion. And as we look at the figure as a whole, I don't think that the paint is really that good on it. I'd say it's the worst out of the lot. So you can kind of see where they've tried to get the shading there on the pectorals and things, but it just looks grey in person. It doesn't look too bad on the video, so if you were going to take pictures of it, it's not that bad. And again, you can see here on this head scan, the 5 o'clock shadow's worse. I think the other head scan is better, so I'll probably be using that if I do take photos with it. And the mismatch of the arm, I mean, you can't really tell that much. I mean, you kind of can, but you can see where it's like just pink here, and the skin tone is completely different here. And you can see it moves okay. I think that the movement in the arms is fine, like it's not stiff. And again, there's a good range of movement there. And the tights, again, I really like the tights. That's what I think these figures are good at, is capturing the detail in the attires. So there you see, it moves, again, fine. And I think if you want to pose him in his drop kick, you can do that effectively, like so. And if you want to hit the Rainmaker pose again, it looks pretty good. The only problem I've got with it is that skin tone. And I think that the mismatch here and here, it's not a massive problem for me, but if you're really into your photography and you like the kind of detail in it, I don't think it will look that good, or as good as perhaps the Hiroshi Tanahashi, which does capture the skin detail a lot better than this one. They've gone too experimental with the paint, I believe. But the tights, again, I do like those. And it's got the same boot cut, like I said with the other figures. I'm not really a fan of the single joint knees. I think there could be more, because again, look, you have him knelt down like that in position for a move, and it's not really, again, he'll just fall over. So they are sold as collectibles though, so I understand, but you could have had a little bit more of a range of motion. If you're going to go that in depth with the detail on the figure, at least include a separate joint for the knee. I'm not even that bothered about the arm one, it's just the knee that's really a problem. And again, the pink on the legs, you can kind of see in person. So I think it's okay. I don't know if it's worth the price point as a figure, but as a collectible, I think it's fantastic. So I am kind of nitpicking, but if you're spending £45 on a figure, it's best to kind of nitpick, if you see what I mean. The 5 o'clock shadow is worse on this one, and the spray paint job they've done on the neck, it's just unnecessary in my opinion. But we'll see what the other figures look like. Now we move on to Tomohiro Ishii. This figure comes with a spare head scan with the eyes closed and a steel chair at the back that you can see there, as well as the standard set of hands that all of these figures do come with. And as we go on to the figure itself, I do like Tomohiro Ishii. I think he's one of my favourites in New Japan. And he comes with the Never Openweight title and this t-shirt on him. In terms of scale, what I forgot to mention before was that they are in scale with WWE and AEW figures. The problem with Ishii though is that he is quite short in real life, so I don't think this scales as well as the other figures in the series, but we'll get to that in a moment. We'll take the shirt off and the belt off and show you a little bit up close what this figure's about. So here's the Never Openweight title up close. Again, not as detailed as the other toys belts that come with it, but it's still a good belt to use, especially for like a Fed or something like that. And this shirt, you just lift it up over the figure, take the head off and just lift it over the arms because there's no like Velcro on it or anything, which makes it look quite clean, which I'm digging. As for Ishii himself, I think the skin tone on this is better than the Okada one. It's more aligned with the Tanahashi one, but there is some issue going on with the arm joints, like right at the top. I think they spray painted it wrong there because it is a little bit mismatched between the torso and the arms, but I'm nitpicking again. They've captured the wide base that Ishii has, and I think this is a fantastic figure for that. It's probably maybe my second favourite figure out of the lot. I think it captures him quite well. So it comes with the belt there and the pants, the attire. Same knee joint as well, and the same rotation on the feet. This elbow pad limits its movement in the arm a tiny bit, so perhaps you'd be better off getting another armband on there if you wanted to pose it, but it's not too much of an issue. Unlike the height, which I think is the biggest issue with this figure, because I'll put him next to Okada, and you can see he's shorter, but not by a lot. And Okada's meant to be, what, 6'3", 6'4", and Ishii's meant to be 5'6", so that's an entire foot shorter that he should be. However, they haven't really captured it there. I think that you could have cut a little bit off of the legs, and it would have been more acceptable in terms of scale. So it's not the biggest issue in the world, and it is difficult to make Ishii customs because of the scale factor, because he's quite a short guy and quite heavily built. So I get why it's not scaled, but it would be nice to have it a little bit more realistic. Again, like Will Ospreay, he's quite a tall dude, and they're like fairly matched up quite well. So he should be a lot shorter, but aside from that, probably my second favourite figure. And finally we come on to Will Ospreay. So he comes with the same set of hands, comes with a big sword and the Super Juniors trophy, as well as a spare head scan. And as we look at the figure, he again has the cloth attire, the cloth jacket, and comes with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title, which I'll show you a closer look at. So here you see the IWGP Junior Heavyweight title looking very nice up close. Also comes with this cloth jacket, which I quite like, with the wings on the shoulders and just a Velcro strap at the front. So what I'll say first about the head scan, it's not really doing it for me. If I show you a little bit up close what it's looking like, I don't think it resembles Ospreay as much as perhaps this head does. So I'll probably be using this one going forward. I think it captures him a little bit more, and I like that it's going to the other side as well. I think the expression helps it too, but this one, I don't know, it just doesn't really capture his resemblance in my opinion. And this figure has the same kind of issues as the Okada one in terms of the paint job. It's not as noticeable, but I understand where they've tried to make it shaded along the pectorals and things like that. But I think it just looks a bit too mismatched for a plastic figure, you know? And I don't like how pink and pale it's looking here. And it's a nice idea to kind of spray paint it, but you can see where on the figure they've actually... because MDT, I saw his review of it, and I thought that might be just a factory error on his part for his figure. But no, it's actually like you can see where the paint has come over onto the arm, the wrist tape. And I think that's a shoddy workmanship, especially for a figure this expensive. It shouldn't really be fading on over onto the plastic there. You'd think there'd be better quality and control on that. And aside from that, you know, I do like the attire that he's got on, and I think the pants look pretty good. And again, it's good. It's good for posing. As much as people like rag on about the, as much as I rag on as well about the knee joints not being double jointed, I think you can pose it in quite a variety of good poses and actions and movement. But it's just the paint job, I think, that's letting it down on this one, and the head scan on here. And also you can see right up close where there's kind of scuff marks on it. Maybe it doesn't really pick up on the camera, but in person you can see there's like scuff marks on the chest, which I think, I'm paying a lot of money for these figures, so you kind of expect a higher quality, and it might have been let down a little bit. But I don't know. What do you guys think? And again, like there, you can see where they've spray painted it, and it's not gone through the whole figure, because they've spray painted it in a certain position, and then there's still like paleness on here. So I probably would have been better just to not have done it at all and had the standard skin tone of the Tanahashi and the Ishii, because those figures, their skin tones work. I think when they try to spray paint it, it doesn't work at all. But that, again, that's just my opinion. So we'll stack them all up side by side, and I'll give you my final thoughts on these figures. So what are my final thoughts on these figures? Honestly, I do like them. I think that the accessories they come with, especially considering you get every singles championship in New Japan in these 4 figures, I think that's good. I think the accessories as well, the hands, I like the attention to detail as well on the tights designs, and I think that there is a good range of movement in spite of the knee joints and the single arm joints as well. However, when you're paying $45 per figure, you kind of expect a higher standard of quality, and it seems there's a couple of laziness elements here. For instance, the spray painting on Will Ospreay's arms and the too tall of a neck, and also the scaling issue, because Okada is much taller than Tanahashi and Ishii, and yet they're all kind of the same size. They do scale quite well with the AEW and WWE figures, and it's not too much of an issue, but again, like, you're paying a lot for these figures, you want them to at least scale up. Can you use them for pick feds? I would say you could. They're definitely not toys. Do not like bend and break them too much. I'm going to treat them with a lot of care. As a collectible item, I do think they're worth $45. The accessories they come with, I think the packaging is fantastic. Maybe focus more on making sure like the skin tones on Okada and Ospreay are on point before you go spending money on fancy packaging and stuff like that. Get the actual figures looking good, because otherwise it's all style over substance, and I understand that's the nature of the game with collectibles, but you see what I mean. You pay 45 quid for it, you expect a certain level of quality, and I think for some aspects definitely delivers, for other aspects does not deliver in the slightest. Fix the paint for the next few series, and I think you've got a really good set of figures that will be worth the price. But if I could sum up, I'd say buy it if you're a fan of either of the guys. Definitely get Tanahashi, I think he's the best one of the bunch. The rest of them you could probably miss if you don't have the money for it. And let's be honest, 45 quid, you should be debating your decisions if you're buying stuff that's that expensive, especially like figures like these. But I would say I'm happy with my purchase. Maybe I won't cop the next set of Super 7 series, but we'll see. If there's a guy that I'm a fan of, I might pick it up in the future. But that's my review. Let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. Also, what do you think about these figures? Do you have them? What are your thoughts? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Like the video because it helps get the channel out there, and also subscribe as we're getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and your support in getting there will be greatly appreciated. That's it from me. Thank you for watching this review, and I will catch you guys later.